Hey everyone, welcome to Mark Education Hub. Welcome to today's video where we'll dive into IELTS Writing Task 1, focusing on how to tackle a bar chart. Whether you're a beginner or looking to refine your skills, we'll walk you through the key strategies to structure your response and score high. Let's get started. A bar chart in IELTS. Writing Task 1 is a visual representation of categorical data, where bars, either horizontal or vertical, are used to compare different categories or variables. Each bar's length or height represents the value of that category, making it easy to spot trends or differences. To write an effective essay, start by analyzing the chart and identifying the key features, such as the highest or lowest values and any noticeable patterns. Then, craft a concise introduction, followed by an overview that summarizes the main trends. In the detailed paragraphs, dive into the specifics, comparing categories and highlighting significant data points. By following this structure, you can clearly and accurately present your findings, boosting your chances of a higher score. Step 1 in writing an IELTS bar chart essay is to analyze the question carefully. The question usually starts with a brief description of the graphic, followed by the instructions on what you need to do. For example, the bar chart below shows the sector contributions to India's gross domestic product from 1960 to 2000 inches introduces the data, while the instructions summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Tell you exactly what is expected of you. Your task is to first identify the main features of the chart. This could be significant trends, key changes, or extreme values. Next, you need to describe these main features in your essay. Finally, you should compare the data where relevant, noting any differences, increases, or decreases. This step is crucial because it lays the foundation for the rest of the essay, ensuring that you address the core elements of the graph effectively. Step 2 involves writing the introduction, where your goal is to paraphrase the question in your own words. This helps avoid repetition and shows your ability to rephrase and understand the topic. Start by identifying key elements in the question, such as the subject, time frame, and the data categories. For example, if the question asks about the contributions of different sectors to India's GDP, you can reword it like this. The bar graph illustrates the relative percentage contributions made by the agricultural, industrial, and service sectors to the Indian economy between 1960 and 2000. Notice how we've changed shows to illustrates sector contributions to relative percentage contributions, and restructured the sentence slightly. The introduction should be clear and concise, providing a brief overview of the data without getting into specific details. This sets the stage for the rest of your essay. Step 3 involves writing the overview, which is a crucial part of your IELTS bar chart essay. In this paragraph, you should focus on summarizing the key trends and making general comparisons without delving into specific details. Think of it as providing a snapshot of the main features of the chart. For example, you might observe that the contribution of the agricultural sector dropped steadily. The service sector's contribution increased each decade, and industry remained static from 1980 to 2000. In your overview, these observations can be paraphrased to highlight the general trends, such as, over the whole time period, the significance of agriculture declined steadily, while services grew in importance decade by decade. A different pattern emerged for industry, which initially showed a slow increase but then plateaued from 1980 onwards. The key here is to keep the overview broad, focusing on the overall patterns and leaving the more specific details for the body paragraphs that follow. This will provide a clear and concise summary of the data's main features. Step 4 focuses on providing the detailed evidence to support your main features. In this paragraph, you'll explain the specific data trends that you mentioned in the overview, offering exact numbers or time frames to give a clearer picture of the information. Here, you'll dive deeper into your first two main features, the decline in the agricultural sector's contribution and the growth of the service sector. For example, you can say, in 1960, agriculture contributed by far the highest percentage of GDP, peaking at 62%, but it then dropped steadily, reaching a low of 12% by 2000. This gives a precise picture of the agricultural decline. Then shift focus to the service sector. The service sector, on the other hand, had a relatively minor impact on the economy in 1960, contributing only 28%. However, its percentage steadily increased with a notable jump from 28% to 43% between 1980 and 1990. By doing this, you not only explain the trend but also show comparisons, highlighting the shift in the economy. This paragraph builds on the general patterns from the overview, providing specific details that support your analysis and offering a clear comparison of how the agricultural and service sectors evolved over time. Step 5 is where you continue to support your analysis with more detailed information, this time focusing on the third main feature. In this paragraph, you'll explain how the industrial sector behaved over the same time period, ensuring you include specific figures to highlight the trend. For example, industry remained a steady contributor to India's wealth throughout the period. It saw a slight growth from 16% in 1960 to exactly 25% by 1980. However, after 1980, industry's contribution remained unchanged for the next 2 decades, holding a constant share of the overall GDP. By presenting the data this way, you're illustrating that, while industry grew initially, it then plateaued and did not show the same growth patterns seen in agriculture or services. This paragraph effectively provides a detailed look at the stability of the industrial sector's contribution, further emphasizing the contrast between the more dynamic sectors like agriculture and services. Now, by following all these strategies, if we have a look at the sample answer of the given graph, the introduction can be written as the bar graph illustrates the relative percentage contributions of the agricultural, industrial, and service sectors to India's GDP between 1960 and 2000. Now comes the overview. Over the 40-year period, agriculture's share of GDP declined significantly, while the service sector's contribution grew steadily. The industrial sector remained relatively unchanged after 1980. After the overview, our first body paragraph will be dedicated to the agriculture and service sectors. In 1960, agriculture contributed the largest share to India's GDP at 62%. However, its contribution decreased consistently over the years, falling to just 12% by 2000. Conversely, the service sector's contribution was only 28% in 1960, but it experienced steady growth, particularly between 1980 and 1990 when it jumped from 28% to 43%. By the end of the period in 2000, the service sector's contribution had matched the peak agriculture had reached in 1960. And finally, the second body paragraph will be about the industrial sector. The industrial sector's contribution to GDP was relatively stable, growing slightly from 16% in 1960 to 25% by 1980. From 1980 to 2000, however, it remained constant, contributing around a quarter of the GDP throughout the period. That's a wrap on our IELTS Writing Task 1 bar chart guide. I hope you found the tips helpful. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. Good luck, and see you.